Hello there, this is Matthew Corbett speaking, and I'm going to read you a story called Sooty Buzzes Off. Hope you enjoy it. Here goes. Sooty, Sweep and Sue were sunbathing in the garden. "Do you hear a buzzing noise?" asked Sooty, sitting up. "You've probably had too much sun," said Sue. "I think you should go inside and lie down." "No," squeaked Sweep. "I can hear it too. It's coming from the bottom of the garden." They all got up and went down the garden. The buzzing was coming from a large tree. As the friends watched, they saw bees flying in and out of a hole halfway up. "There must be a hive in there," said Sooty. "And where there's a hive, there's honey. On bread." "On pancakes," said Sue. "On bones," said Sweep. "Right," said Sooty. "Now we know where the honey is. How do we get at it?" "You could climb up," said Sue to Sooty. "You could climb up," said Sooty to Sue. Then they both looked at Sweep. "You could climb up," they said together. "Oh, no," squeaked Sweep. "I don't want to get stung." "I've got a better idea," said Sooty. Sweep and Sue groaned. "All right, let's hear it." "I could dress up as a giant bee," said Sooty. "After all, I am the right colours." "Don't be silly," squeaked Sweep. "You're far too big to get into the hive." "I don't want to get into the hive," said Sooty. "If I look like a giant bee, I can buzz about the garden. The bees will be very curious and will all come out to see me. Then I will make them follow me up the garden." Sue and Sweep still looked puzzled. "When all the bees are away from the hive," said Sooty to Sweep, "you can climb up their tree and get the honey." Sue was so thankful that she didn't have to climb the tree that she rushed off and got her portable sewing machine. She set it up in the garden under a shady tree. "I knew these old brown trousers of Matthew's would come in useful for something," she said. "Come here, Sooty, and let me measure round you." Soon she had made some wide brown bands, which she pinned round Sooty. Sweep and Sooty were busy making wings. They bent old wire coat hangers into the right shape and glued gauze over them. When they were finished, they looked very realistic. Sweep tied them onto Sooty's back, and he practised flapping them. "How do I look?" he asked. Sweep and Sue both thought he looked quite silly. "Very like a bee," they replied. Sue suddenly rushed into the house and came out with Matthew's butterfly net. "What's that for?" asked Sooty. "It's to catch the bees if they look as if they're going to sting you," said Sue. "It's better to be safe than sorry." "I thought it was to catch me if I fell out of the tree," squeaked Sweep. When the music stops, turn your cassette over. That's the end of side one. Sooty was practicing being a bee. "Izzy, bizzy, let's get busy, bizz, bizz." he sang, dancing round the garden. Every now and then he stopped and buried his face in a flower. Soon his nose was yellow with pollen. "Why do bees hum?" he asked, pausing in his dance. "I don't know," said Sue. "Why do bees hum?" "Because they don't know the words," said Sooty, and buzzed off, laughing, towards the tree with the hive in it. A bee, returning to the hive with a sack full of pollen, spotted Sooty and nearly dropped it. It buzzed quickly into the hive. Soon a few bees came out, looked at Sooty, and went back in again. It was not long before a whole crowd of bees flew out and hovered round Sooty, buzzing curiously. As they had planned, Sooty flapped his wings, buzzed loudly, and set off down the garden. The bees followed him, just as he had thought they would. But the bees were puzzled. Sooty looked like a bee, he sounded like a bee, but was he a bee? Sweep hurried off to the tree with the hive in it. He had just got his paws round the trunk and was beginning to climb when he heard Sue crying, "Oh, do be careful, Sooty, look behind you!" The bees had looked more closely at Sooty. They could see that he wasn't a bee, but he was so large he would be able to gather all the pollen from the garden. Whatever he was, the bees didn't like him. They were very angry. Sooty wished he was able to fly away. He flapped his wings hopefully, but nothing happened. Sue swished the butterfly net about, but the bees were far too many and too scattered to catch. It was no use. Sweep arrived in time to see the bees almost reaching Sooty. "Oh dear," he squeaked, "what are we going to do?" At the very last moment, Sue threw the butterfly net over Sooty. He crouched inside it, looking out with a worried face. The bees circled round him, but he was quite safe inside the net. Soon the bees grew tired of watching him and flew back to the hive. But it was a long time before Sue and Sweep could persuade Sooty to come out. At tea time, Sooty, Sweep, and Sue had a picnic in the garden. Sooty helped himself to more lemonade. "It's thirsty work being a bee," he said. Sue passed him a plate of sandwiches. "Would you like jam, chopped egg, or chocolate spread?" she asked. "I don't care," said Sooty, mopping his brow with the back of his paw, "just so long as it's not honey." The titles of the stories available in this series are as follows: Sooty's Painting Trip, Sooty's Birthday Surprise, Sooty's Magic Tricks, and Sooty Buzzes Off. I hope you enjoyed reading and listening to the story on this cassette. I know you'll enjoy the others in the series. This is Matthew Corbett saying, bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.